April 2012, and tonight on KTN Prime we focus on the simmering tension between the Sudan and its neighbor South Sudan. A day after Khartoum declared South Sudan its enemy number one, the situation seems to be getting worse and likely to degenerate into an all-out war should there be no immediate meaningful intervention.
Now, this is no doubt a worrying situation for the region, given what is already happening in Somalia. And tonight we call upon all the powers that be to step in and stop this impending war.
If there is any time to act, we say the time to act is now. And to catch more on this, we'll be joined later on in this bulletin by Ann Kiguta, who will be talking to representatives from both sides. This live interview coming up on KTN Prime. Be sure to join us. But first, let's take a look at the highlights.
Khartoum prepares for an all-out war with Juba.
The resolve I have to be a presidential candidate in this country come the next general election remains.
Mudavadi seeks control of Western vote as he plans to quit ODM.
Kenya's budget now reaches historic trillion shilling levels.
And you're likely to pay higher internet charges if Safaricom scraps unlimited offer.
Good evening and welcome to KTN Prime. I am Joy Doringbira.
I'm Eric Latif. Welcome.
The conflict between Sudan and neighboring South Sudan is taking a new twist, with both sides leaving little room for negotiation.
Omar al-Bashir's government has said today that it would not tolerate Juba's hardline stance over the growing conflict over oil and border. But Juba has also announced today that they'll hold their positions in the contested oil fields and seized from Khartoum's army.
Now, the conflict has jolted the East African region, prompting President Kibaki to appeal to the East African Assembly to help the two Sudans avoid war at all costs. KTN's Noor Teno with the details.
Just 9 months after the independence of South Sudan and less than 7 years after the end of a bloody civil war, the two Sudans have their guns pointed at each other as they move perilously close to a full-blown war over oil and territory. Sudan was not mincing words. Sudan is demanding a complete withdrawal of South Sudanese forces from Heglig, an oil-rich town in Kordofan state, a state claimed by Sudan. The South Sudanese have also stated their forces will not withdraw and they are willing to hold the captured region at all costs. Kenya's President Mwai Kibaki has called on the two Sudans to resist war.
We must also find ways to diplomatically address the unfolding events on the border between South Sudan and Sudan. These two nations must not return to war so soon after a peaceful separation.
The East African region is wary of the strife in the Sudan after the 39 years of civil war that lasted from 1955 to 1972 and picked up again from 1983 to 2005. It left more than 2 million people dead, the South Sudan in ruins, and the region unstable with proliferation of arms. The regional blocs, including the IGAD countries, spent years and immense resources negotiating the comprehensive peace agreement that finally saw an end to war in 2005. Now, will all that go to waste? The conflict over the oil fields of Heglig have escalated since Tuesday last week, with Sudan's armed forces bombarding SPLA targets.
I call upon my brothers, the presidents of the Republic of Sudan and the Southern Sudan, to work together towards resolving the dispute that may reverse the gains that have already been realized through implementation of the comprehensive peace agreement.
The Security Council expresses its deep and growing alarm by the escalating conflict between Sudan and South Sudan, as manifested most recently by the seizure and occupation of the town of Heglig and its oil fields in Sudan by the SPLA.
The UN has confirmed that aerial bombardments by Sudan along the border with the south have killed several civilians and hit a United Nations peacekeeping base, but Khartoum denies this. Now Tino, KTN Prime.
This story is the focus of our interactive big question tonight. We're asking you, should Kenya once again mediate in the Sudanese conflict?
You can send us your comments beginning with a yes or no to the SMS number 8040, and we'll be able to sample some of your comments at the tail end of this live newscast.
And we'd always love to know your name and where you're texting in from. Please remember to give us those ones as you text in.
That's right. Now, Ann Kiguta is just about to let us know exactly where this is all coming from. You know, considering that the South seceded it could be just about a year or so. And, you know, just not even 2 years into their independence, you know, we are seeing them already having conflicts with the northern side. Ann Kiguta is going to be taking us through that bit and whether or not the problem is bigger than Heglig.
Thanks very much, Joy. Indeed, it feels like it was just yesterday when I was in studio, joined by members of the Southern Sudan community celebrating their newly found independence, celebrating the fact that what was then the North, now just referred to as Sudan, had granted them their independence as agreed on by the CPA. But now, just months later, all hell seems to be close to breaking loose. I'm joined now in studio by the head of mission, the acting head of mission for South Sudan, Kurgarang. He is the one to my extreme right, and to my immediate right is Sudan's ambassador, Kamal Said. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
How have we made our way back to this situation where media headlines are awash that the drums of war sound like they're beating all over again? What's going on?
What was going on is that we used to have engage in negotiations with our brothers in the south for several months before. And in the 9th of April, while our delegation was poised to take off to go to Addis Ababa for the negotiations with the people in the south, then we have been taken by surprise that their troops have penetrated our borders and occupied our oil fields and did a lot of damage for us in that area. That area, Heglig, is 70 kilometers inside our territory.
You claim that Heglig is within your territory. There are reports that, that the CPA, if you'd allow me, had agreed to treat Heglig as how a BA would be treated under the CPA. What is your response to that?
That is misinformation. Heglig is not a disputed area. Heglig is a pure Sudanese land. It is 70 kilometers from the borders. It is not disputed at all.
He says it's not disputed. It's clearly their land.
Thank you very much. First of all, I don't think what is being claimed by my brother ambassador is not true. I think he may be familiar with the map of Sudan, but he's not familiar with the map of inside Sudan. Pantau belongs to South Sudan.
Pantau, which is also known as Heglig.
Yes, they're translated into Arabic, but actually known as the Pantau. And it belongs to South Sudan. It's not even a disputed area. The disputed area may be 60 kilos away from Pantau.
Well, there's clearly a dispute if both of you are saying that this is our area. My question is this. Why is it that the South has invaded this area, I think about a week ago? Why are your troops there?
I don't think whether it is an invasion. What is happening actually, this place, they make it as a ground troop that they used to attack our position. They took it, then we say, okay, we can go to the court or people go for peace. Because we claim it is our area. And we know it belongs to us. This is why we did not even make an aggression. But always they are attacking our position. I think it is happening twice. They have been refunded and come back again. I think that it result into the SPLA forces to take over the place.
Well, he says you've been using Helgeg, which is an oil-rich town, to attack southern positions. Are your troops there? Is this what you've been doing?
No, this is an oil field. This is not a battlefield. Even if we want to attack them, we should not attack them for our oil facilities. This is an oil facility. This is a civil area. They never claimed it before. The matter of fact, even President Kiir said first he said, I will not withdraw. Then he said, I will going to withdraw if there is troops.
If there are UN troops.
If you have troops.
In the area.
Then he said, now last version, that they will draw if they guarantee that we are not going to attack them. So if it is their land, why are they drawing? Why they offer to withdraw?
Are you willing to go back to mediated talks to try and salvage the peace that Kenya brokered?
Once they withdraw the troops from there, we're ready. We've been negotiating. We continue negotiating with them for several years, and they have done these aggressions. Once they withdrew their invaders, we'll be more than glad to.
You've said you'll withdraw only if UN peace troops are on the ground. Why?
This is why the position of South Sudan always, we want peace. This is why we need a neutral body to be in the middle. Because this area is belong to us, but we know anytime we can go to the court and claim the area. But what we want now, we need any troop, neutral body, either from UN or from African Union, to take over the place.
You've
so
said
that
it
we
before.
finish at once.
Yes, you've said it before that you're not willing to do this. You're not willing to see the UN on the ground there first as a precondition. Why this hell-bent position?
Because, I repeat, this area is 70 miles away from the borders. What United Nations troops are going to do in our country, inside the country? It is not the border. We can accept the United Nations at the border. This is 70 kilometers north of the border.
But, Ambassador, you must appreciate, though, that the entire issue of the border has largely been disputed. You're still yet to work out how you're going to deal with the border issue.
Yes, the border.
And so what I am asking is that in this period of crisis and of increased hostility, why not allow, if not the UN, perhaps an IGAD force, an AU force, or any other member state which would be agreeable to both of you, to be an intermediary?
Yes, once they withdraw to the recognized borders, we'll be agreeing that. But so long as they are staying there, occupying our land, we make sure it will be very difficult for them to stay there.
And what does that mean? What does very difficult mean? I've seen in previous reports, in previous interviews that you've anchored, you've said the economy is not one of the things that would deter you from going there. Of course, the costs of war are enormous. Both your countries are yet to really get back on the feet.
Sure. No.
Over 2 million people lost their lives during the first round of civil war. Is this not a cost that would make you reconsider?
It is. So this is why we will request our brothers to refrain from attacking us. We know war is destructive. We know war is damaging. We know we have very meager resources which we want to use for construction and not destructions. So we've been stabbed in the back. So we have two options, either to surrender for aggression or to resist it. And the first option is not possible. That is the situation.
Yes, do you want to respond?
I think what I want to say, to confirm that these are the people who actually make aggression to us during the peace in Addis Ababa, when people are almost going to sign, his Minister of Defense called the team and they refused to sign. And he was even telling our delegation that we are going to meet there. So we were even confused. Where are we going to meet? Whether there is another place that had been suggested for the peace. In the next few hours, they have attacked our area.
You're saying they abandoned the talks?
Yes, they have abandoned the talk in Addis Ababa, and they left while they know that their troops are going to attack our area. And all the area of South Sudan is being bombed every time.
Ambassador, why walk out of
Unity
talks
State, Upper Nile State, and even part of Warabi State.
We did not want. We have received the agreement, the proposal, and we said our delegation said they're going to consult with the government in Khartoum, and we will be back. And then, this is why I said, by the time we are poising to take off, our delegation was poised to take off to go to Addis to continue the negotiations, where our brothers incurred and bombarded, took over our land in Hegli.
But, Mr. Ambassador, you must admit, though, there have been satellite images that have been widely circulated, recorded by the Satellite Sentinel project, which is being sponsored by George Clooney in conjunction with Harvard University, that has shown rearming of your troops and bombing of civilian populations in the Kordofan area. You cannot deny that there has been aggression on your part as well.
Rearming our troops, that's true. We rearm our troops, we prepare our troops. That's true, and that's all right.
The question being, preparation for what? Do you think this sends the right message?
Yes, to protect our borders from the rebels, which has been harbored, those terrorist group, which has been harbored in the south, and come and attack us continuously, whether in the in the south of Kordofan or in Blue Nile. They have rebel groups. They have declared policy to overthrow our government and attack us. And they are being trained, equipped, and provided by logistic and arms in the south. What are they keeping them for? So this is why we are preparing for that. But the question, bombarding civilians, this is a stupidity. No same person will going to bombard his civilian people.
A lot of accusations and counter-accusations, and it can be expected. As we conclude, one, do you think, and this question goes out to both of you, do you think the other is committed to real and lasting peace for both your countries? And second, what is it going to take to get your presidents back at the negotiating table?
On our side, we are ready for peace, and we are even today, if the Sudan is ready for peace, our delegation is ready. Our position, my president say always, I'm not taking back my people to the war, because you know all this war. But if somebody come and aggress you in your land, what do? You have to defend yourself. So our people, we are on the defensive. We are not attacking anymore. To tell you, if the child is being born today, do you think in the next 8 months, 9 months, you can start fighting father or mother?
But what would it take for your president, for your country, to come back to the negotiating table? What? Because this is the whole point of negotiations. It's give and take.
And this is why we came out with our position, that when we are being told that you withdraw, my country say, yes, we are ready to withdraw. But we need a neutral body to come and take over. Because it is a matter of going to the court. Later on, if this area has been given to Sudan, then there's no problem. If the area has been given to us, then there's no problem. So why are they refusing? Go back for talk or go back to
Sorry,
court?
I must interrupt because we're running out of time. Your final remarks. Are they keen on peace, in your opinion? What will it take for you to go back to negotiations?
I think their behavior during the last 4 years does not indicate they are very keen to peace. But despite that, we continue to negotiate with them. This time,
you're not. You're not at the negotiating table.
No. This time, we used to continue until they took Higli. This time, it is very easy and simple. Go back, go to the border, go to your border line, and then we're ready to negotiate. But we cannot negotiate under no circumstances of aggression or occupation. That's quite clear for us.
Well, clearly no simple answers coming out tonight. Both very hell-bent on their positions. We certainly do hope, for the sake of your people, and your people live across the border with each other, that you'd be able to find peace for both your countries. Thanks for watching. I'm Ann Kiguta. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you very much. And it's indeed a very intriguing interview looking there. There's definitely room for some mediation here.
I know, and there's quite a lot that needs to go through. Both countries need to go through, because if we're looking at peace, it's going to be quite a long way to go.
Indeed, and tonight we're asking you in our interactive big question whether you think Kenya should once again mediate in the Sudanese conflict.
Send your comments to our SMS number, which is 8040, and that is with a yes or no, and we'll be able to sample some of your comments. Eric, I'm sure there are quite a number of them.
Oh yes, there's one here from Ndome Daniel in Nairobi. He says, yes, Kenya should help, because if not, we'll end up catering for refugees, which is even more expensive. And it's a must-do job for Kenya. We are likely to pay a bigger price. Ocampo might laugh at us. You didn't give us your name, but from Kakamega, Jared says, no, the problem is Bashir. Let him go to The Hague.
Well, keep sending your views to 8040. We will sample some of them during the course of the bulletin. Now, moving on to more national news. Deputy Prime Minister Musalia Mudavadi today upped his bid for the presidency after meeting 18 members of parliament from Western Kenya and declaring that his appetite for the highest office remains very strong. KTN's Samogina has the details.
The deputy ODM leader marshaled 18 members of parliament from Western Kenya to a consultative meeting to strategize on his presidential ambition. It was a political statement of some sorts. Out of the 23 constituencies in the Western region, 4 MPs sent apologies, with only Justice Minister and Saboti MP Eugene Wamalwa and Budalangi MP Ababu Namwamba not showing up.
We believe that it was important that they got that message.
Reports indicate that the current cabinet reshuffle that elevated a leader from Western Kenya to a full minister prodded Mudavadi's full-scale presidential ambitions to position himself as the Western kingmaker. Mudavadi on Tuesday sent his strongest indication yet that he might be decamping from ODM. Nonetheless, he remains cagey, not explicitly stating his new political vehicle.
Unasema bwana Mudavadi anacheza mpira ndani ya nyumba. Hajaenda nje.
The resolve I have to be a presidential candidate in this country come the next general election remains, and it is a resolve that we want to pursue.
Mudavadi is casting his net wide in search of a political vehicle to propel him in the presidential race. But insiders say the biggest hurdle facing the Sabatia MP is finding a political party that will guarantee him a direct presidential nomination. Talks are at an advanced stage, with Mudavadi warming up to either New Ford Kenya or Ford Kenya Party.
Kwa wale ambao wanasema tunatafuta chama, mimi sijui. Hakuna chama ambaye anatafuta. Yeye ni mtu wa ODM.
My resolve to be a candidate is very high, and that consultation is going on, and certain statements will be made very systematically.
Meanwhile, Water Minister Charity Ngilu has rebutted claims that she is in talks with the DPM as Mudavadi calculates his next political move.
Niliwaambia lini? Nilikutana na nyinyi lini? Wewe ulikutana na mimi wapi? Niliuliza. Ndio nyinyi mliandika jana. Mheshimiwa Musalia aliwaambia hivyo.
Mudavadi heads to Kakamega over the weekend to meet with Western leaders, among them civic leaders, for another consultative meeting before making an announcement on his political future.
There are so many issues to be discussed, so many issues to be answered. We don't want to take anything for granted, and we are not going to take anybody for granted.
Mudavadi's exit plan from ODM has made the party leadership rethink its presidential strategy away from assembling regional appointment. Mudavadi's aides say after settling on a political party, he will see his running mate not from Western region. Already Mudavadi is in talks with Gatanga MP Peter Kenneth and Mvita MP Najib Balala. The color disparity at Orange House perhaps a telltale sign that all is not well at the ODM headquarters. ODM Deputy Party Leader Musalia Mudavadi today made the strongest indication that he might be bolting out of ODM, a move that might leave Orange House virtually an empty shell. Samogina at the ODM headquarters, Nairobi.
The design of the Kenyan currency would have been changed every 3 years if the Deliveroo contract would have been honored in 2007. This is what Transport Minister Amos Kimunya told a parliamentary committee investigating the Deliveroo saga.
Kimunya, who was a then finance minister, revealed to Parliament at the Parliamentary Accounts Committee that in the same year, President Mwai Kibaki postponed the printing of new currencies to avert possible vote buying during the general election. Here is KTN's Asha Mwili with more.
Amos Kimunya finally took the hot seat after snubbing the Parliamentary Accounts Committee on 2 occasions. And with his presence, the committee expected to finally piece up the maze around the Deliveroo currency printing tender. According to Kimunya, the decision to review the printing tender was based on the dangers associated with the money and elections. Hence, the advice he gave to President Kibaki as his finance minister then.
Why are we introducing new money in an election year? how are we going to defend ourselves as a government that we are not introducing this new money to create confusion and to create avenues for rigging of elections? They said, well, it was supposed to have started earlier, but it was delayed because the tender had to be repeated. And unfortunately, the delivery is now going to coincide with 2007, which is the election year.
The current transport minister's view contradicted that given by Central Bank of Kenya Governor Professor Njuguna Ndung'u earlier on. The governor's opinion was that the change of design was primarily meant for security purposes for the Kenyan currency.
The answer I got was very shocking. That yes, because we have had to move, because of the tendering, we had to change the design of the currency. So even the design change was not because of need for security features.
According to Kimunya, Delaru's first 10-year contract with Kenya dictated that the British currency firm would claim the patent. CBK in turn adopted new designs to promote fair competition between the three companies that had tendered to print the monies. Kimunya also blamed the controversy around the 2005 tender cancellation on the then acting CBK Governor Jacinta Mwatela, who last week gave her testimony in camera over what she termed as fears on her life. Despite the controversy surrounding the tender, Delaru has on its part insisted that the government carries out its part of the deal in the joint venture to fruition since it was a deal done above board. Ashamwilu, KTN Prime.
Internet prices could go up in the coming days if leading mobile phone services provider Safaricom decides to scrap unlimited internet bundles. Safaricom is apparently toying with the idea, following what it claims to be misuse of the unlimited bundles. Unlimited data packages have apparently turned out to be expensive for the company, which has to incur costs made by high data users downloading huge files on the unlimited packages.
High data users relying on the unlimited package from Safaricom may be in for a cold awakening. The mobile service provider has hinted that it may do away with the package altogether. Reason? It did not provide a viable business case for the mobile telephony company. According to the company's CEO, Bob Collymore, the unlimited offer was being abused by some customers.
We've seen some users downloading as much as 35 gigs in a day. 35 gigs in a day is something else.
This abuse has been the subject of much debate among a section of Safaricom's 5 million data subscribers who argue that an unlimited package, by virtue of its title, should not be restricted. Safaricom currently limits capacity on the offer, a move that has not been well received by subscribers.
We should have told you we were throttling it. We didn't throttle because we were only throttling it to what we launched it at in the first place, which was 128. And of course, 128 is the max you'll get, but invariably you'll end up getting much less than that.
This latest move by Safaricom is a likely indication that, given the high capital expenditure realized in laying internet connection infrastructure, that operators are keen to recoup their investment fast. However, with margins from the voice segment declining for mobile operators, the data segment has quickly turned out to be a lucrative offering, which may explain Safaricom's move to increase internet speeds up to 42 megabytes per second. However, only sections of Nairobi will be able to enjoy these faster speeds.
This capacity is rolled out in areas where we identify the highest need for traffic, with today 14 sites deployed initially in Westlands, Lavington, Kilileshwa area, and the deployment is ongoing with sites where we identified the highest data usage needs.
Edith Kimani, KTN Prime.
Thanks, Edith. Now, the Ministry of Finance could read the biggest budget in Kenya's history if members of Parliament approve a 1.15 trillion shilling budget estimate tabled in Parliament today. The estimates indicate that the government has cut its deficit by 30% to 167 billion shillings. Aaron Ocheng has more on this story.
Parliament resumed its sitting this afternoon after a month's recess, and straight to the task, Assistant Minister for Finance Dr. Oburu Odinga tabled the 2012-2013 budget estimates. It is going to be the biggest budget ever for Kenya since independence, considering the devolved system of government that is soon to be in place. The estimate puts the budget that will start in the next financial year in June at 1.152 trillion shillings. Out of this amount, the government will run a deficit of 167.4 billion shillings. The government seeks to bridge the deficit by borrowing 60 billion shillings from external donors, while the remaining 106.7 billion shillings is to be borrowed from the domestic market. Each county will be allocated not less than 91.2 billion shillings. The 2012-2013 budget will set forth an important turnaround as the country transits to a devolved system of government, with counties obliged with new financial management like revenue-raising powers, revenue allocations, running their own budgets and expenditures. As the Assistant Minister tabled the estimates before the House, it emerged that the estimates were worked out without the input of the House Budgetary Committee, and MPs were quick to read malice at the estimates drafted by the Treasury.
Last year was the last time that the chair would entertain any attempt to bring budget estimates to this House beyond 30th of April. So are we still going to meet that deadline?
Finance Minister Njeru Githai was not in Parliament today, and his assistant was tasked to explain why MPs were overlooked while drawing the proposal.
Mr. Speaker, I beg that you give me up to Thursday afternoon.
In fact, you have run out of time. So now to say that you want until Thursday is not being very helpful.
When the House made the decision to go on recess, we were quite aware that indeed there will be some timelines that will expire when the House is on recess, but we've taken the earliest opportunity at the commencement of the House to table the BPS.
With the heavy itinerary ahead of Parliament and time running out for the August House to put legislations in place for full implementation of the Constitution, Speaker Kenneth Marende called on the MPs and especially ministers to desist from missing House sittings. Aaron Ocheng, KTN Prime.
Just a reminder of our big question tonight, and we're asking, should Kenya once again mediate in the Sudanese conflict?
Send us your comments to the number 8040 beginning with a yes or no plus. Also put a brief comment and we'll give you the poll results at the end of this live newscast. You're watching KTN Prime. Keep it right here, it's just ahead.
We have the latest on the alleged UK dossier investigation. Do stay with us.
The more of our world we see, the richer we become. Fly Emirates. Hello, tomorrow.
Keroche Breweries Limited, leaders in quality. The home of quality. Truly Kenyan.
Tumeushago najua hujalipa dhitima na unafaa kulipa dhitima before deadline. Najua utachukua shortcut kwa neighbor uruke feji. Wewe hujaikimbia hivyo juu dogi zitafunguliwa. Sasa kuepa hiyo dogi utapata mti. Ukifika chungu utaamsha nyuki. Kuepa hizo nyuki itabidi drive kwa river. Ukidrive kwa river viatu zako za mitumba zitaharibika. Zikiharibika utakaa bara, hakuna gari itakubeba. Na juu baisikeli haina bio utafika late. Na hiyo tutakatiwa sitima kwa sababu wewe haukulipa on time.
Ya mama boy, kulipa siku hizi ni easy pay.
Avoid the hustle. Avoid the queues. Pay your electricity bill 2 days before the due date or earlier at any Easy Pay point anywhere in Kenya.
Baba boy, yani bado nakunywa chai wewe. Nani atakamua ng'ombe, apatie buzi mereo, afungulie.
Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan.
New Mac
Maximum Hydration Body Lotion for Men delivers intense nourishment with no sticky feeling while providing 24 hours plus moisturization for skin prone to dryness. New Nivea for Men Maximum Hydration Body Lotion. The perfect defense for dry skin. Nivea for Men. What men want.
Escape to freedom. Here life is full of flavor. Where you can enjoy good health and some of the best food found anywhere.
You belong to me, and I belong to you.
Welcome to Pwani Life. Solitech, the power to protect.
Wadhi wenye nchi wenzangu, hebu tuelewane. Cheki, ile pauko pakawa ya zamani ya Kenya na wenyewe ilishia na katiba mpya. Serikali sasa sio nyokale hizi viti, ni yetu sisi waweka hapa. Tudu hivi, mkiota atakaleta panganga hapa ati he mara that tumnyime kura kwa tadu hiyo na hapa kwa jina langu na wabeste wangu wote warodi. Na nyinyi wenye nchi wa Kenya sasa.
Welcome back to KTN Prime. Now, court cases, it emerges, may be frustrating attempts by the National Social Security Fund to settle once and for all suspended and restructured construction projects.
Sololo Outlets, a company associated with Lugari Member of Parliament Cyrus Jirongo, has returned to court to claim a further payment of over 1.5 billion shillings, even after the fund agreed to settle the matter with 490 million shillings.
In addition, Sololo Outlets proposes that the fund returns the entire estate in exchange for all the monies paid by the fund.
The Public Investments Committee today sat once more to tackle these and other projects that have been eating into public funds.
Lugari Member of Parliament Cyrus Jirongo failed to turn up for the Public Investment Committee sitting. Instead, it was the board of the National Social Security Fund that would appear to shed light on several white elephants that had eaten into its funds. Starting with Hazina Estate in South B, an estate now valued at over 40 billion shillings and which Jirongo is seeking to repossess.
This project, when it was started, then it got into trouble, the developer. And then he comes to NSSF with a stalled project for NSSF to fund. Is that what NSSF was supposed to be, the business, the core business of NSSF? So Sololo Outlets, this was their project. They didn't have funds, that's why they came to us to buy the plots from them.
NSSF staff recounted how in 1992, Jirongo through his company Sololo Outlets sought funding from NSSF to complete the over 400-unit Hazina Estate. When Sololo could no longer afford to fund the project, it offered NSSF the estate for 1.2 billion shillings. This price would later double to 2.5 billion shillings, causing NSSF to terminate the contract.
In May, there had to be disagreements and then termination. So obviously for me, I think this was a contract that was signed. I mean a contract that was initiated to get some cash for campaigns, and once the campaigns were done, the contract had to be cancelled because probably the firm could not do the work.
We want to get the artifacts from yourselves with all the necessary evidence that supports whatever decision that your team has made regardless of the perceptions that have been created.
Attempts to settle the matter led NSSF to offer a settlement of 490 million shillings to Jirongo. Now the MP proposes to return all monies paid by the fund to him, totaling 1.3 billion shillings, to get the estate back. The fund is facing legal claims of more than 18 billion shillings. Apart from Jirongo's payments, it also released 342 million shillings to a Ugandan businessman who had contracts with NSSF. When it reconvenes next week, the committee is set to tackle the intrigue surrounding Mugoya Construction Company and the circumstances which saw it get paid for a project that never got off the ground. Wilkison Abwa, KTN Prime.
First, we'd like to apologize for a mix-up in captioning. When the MP for Vihiga, Yusuf Chanzu, was speaking, we inadvertently called him Tomodongo, but Tomodongo is actually the acting managing trustee of the NSSF.
Looking at more news, the two members of parliament who tabled the alleged UK documents detailing plans by the ICC to indict President Kibaki have declined to appear before the parliamentary committee probing the controversial document.
This as both the Attorney General, Professor Gedho Mwegai, and Minister for Justice, Eugene Wamalwa, remained pessimistic as to whether the authenticity of the dossier will ever be ascertained. Here is KTN Sophia Wanuna with more on that developing story.
The Departmental Committee on Defence and Foreign Affairs probing the alleged UK dossier began its session Tuesday with an announcement that the invitation to Yatta MP Charles Kilonzo and Dugis MP Aden Duale, who tabled the controversial documents in Parliament, had been rejected. In response to letters dated 11th April sent to both Charles Kilonzo and Aden Duale, asking them to appear before the committee and as though they were reading from the same script, part of their response to the invitation read, "Please note, I consider the committee's invitation for a friendly discussion as a request to waive my rights accorded to me as a member of the House by the National Assembly. Power and Privileges Act Cap 6 Laws of Kenya, thus decline the invitation." This refusal by the two to appear before the committee only served to complicate what has become an uphill task for the committee and security officers who had also attempted to interrogate them, only for them to cite parliamentary immunity. Attorney General Professor Gedho Mwegai, who appeared before the committee, once again defended the government's involvement in the ICC matter, saying it was to ensure Kenya's sovereignty is protected and not to protect either of the suspects.
The Attorney General and the government of the Republic of Kenya do not and cannot represent any of the suspects.
The Attorney General and Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Eugene Wamalwa, who also appeared before the committee, maintained that they were so far unable to establish the authenticity of the UK dossier.
The chances are, Mr. Chairman, that we will never know whether this document is legitimate or not.
We do not have the necessary instruments or the means to establish the authenticity of that document.
Remarks that the chair of the departmental committee did not take kindly.
And I believe as a government, today you know whether that document is false or true.
This even as the UK government dismissed the letter.
The documents are not genuine.
The alleged UK dossier has, among other things, alleged that there is a plot to have President Kibaki indicted over crimes against humanity at the ICC after his tenure, and has also claimed that Prime Minister Raila Odinga will be the next president. Sophia Wanuna, KTN Prime.
Thanks a lot, Sophia Wanuna. Now, coming on shortly is going to be business news with James Karani.
Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan. From the seaside to the lakeside, From the mountains to the valleys, from the bright lights to the far north. No matter what the job, no matter where it takes you. Test drive one or more of Nissan's range of pickups at your nearest DT Dobi dealer. Nani Kama Nissan.
Here at Viceroy, we never stop passionately crafting our barrels and maturing our brandy the traditional way.
Viceroy Cocktails. Viceroy Alcoblow. The ingredients are double Viceroy brandy, 3 dashes of bitters, ice cubes, 2 orange wedges, and cola as a mixer. Stir to enjoy the refreshing drink.
So you can keep on enjoying it.
Escape to freedom. Indulge in fragrance. This is a life full of flavor. Serving up some of the best food found anywhere.
You belong to me, and I belong to you.
Welcome to Pwani Life.
KTN Business Today, in association with CBA.
We can make the most of what we have. CBA, time for more.
Well, indeed, a very good evening to you and welcome to KTN Business Today. On the 17th day of April 2012, I'm James Karani. We begin with news that for the second time, the High Court has declined to suspend national carriers Kenya Airways rights issue. This follows a request by a shareholder who says the exercise was not well thought of to take care of the minority shareholders' interests. Fred Omulo with the full details.
The case challenging the issuance of the additional shares by the national carrier will now go to a full hearing. Rakesh Gadani had hoped that the courts would grant orders to suspend the issue as an urgent matter. However, Justice Warsame said he saw no urgency in the matter and made a decision similar to that of Justice Fredo Chieng, who last week also declined to suspend the exercise. Gadani had wanted the airline directors temporarily stopped from offering the shares at 14 shillings or listing them at the Nairobi Securities Exchange pending conclusion of the case. His argument was that existing shareholders who will not participate could lose 66% of their share value if they are sold at 14 shillings, down from the average price of 42 shillings over the last 3 months. Additionally, Gadani also questioned the effect of a failure by most shareholders to exercise their rights, noting that the airline stood the risk of losing its national carrier status. KQ intends to raise 20.7 billion shillings through the ongoing rights issue. Proceeds from the exercise will be used in a 10-year expansion plan dubbed Project Mawingo that will also see the airline increase its destinations from 56 to 115 by 2021. The national carrier requires 300 billion shillings to finance the project, whose cornerstone is the acquisition of 9 787 Boeing Dreamliner planes beginning next year. Fred Omulo, KTN Business Today.
The announcement of the discovery of oil reserves in Gamia One well near Lokichar in Turkana County was greeted with a lot of jubilation. But beyond the excitement, what strategies have been put in place to ensure that Kenya's black gold is not exploited in the wrong way? That's the main question that we'll be asking on KTN's premier business analysis show, KTN Business Weekly, this Wednesday. We have a teaser of what's coming up tomorrow. Let's take a look at it.
There's a long time before we're going to be bathing in petrodollars in Kenya.
That is a capacity which now brings in the questions of good governance, questions of integrity, questions of commitment to the interests of the country, over and above other interests and so forth.
The character of the petroleum extraction industry is such that it is very highly capital intensive. So it is not the kind of industry that will provide the mass jobs that are required in Kenya. And I think that should be made clear.
The appointment of American Jim Yong Kim as new president of the World Bank over Nigerian Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was seen as the candidate who would break the American dominance of the position has not gone unnoticed in Africa. Let's take a look at the reactions from across the continent.
According to Reuters news agency, the World Bank moved on Monday to choose Korean-born American health expert Jim Yong Kim as its new president, maintaining Washington's grip on the job and leaving developing countries frustrated with the selection process. The decision by the World Bank's 25-member board was not unanimous, with emerging economies splitting their support. Brazil and South African-backed Nigerian nominee Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, while three sources said China and India supported Kim. News that their candidate had lost out on the top spot was greeted with disappointment on the streets of Lagos, where many had opted an African candidate would reflect the interests of the continent better than the American. With Nigeria's widely respected finance minister Okonjo-Iweala in the running for the Global Development Lenders presidency, it was the first time in the World Bank's history that the United States hold on the job was challenged. United States said the process was open and transparent, but a number of emerging nations questioned whether the candidates were assessed on their nationalities rather than on their merits, as World Bank member countries had agreed in 2010. In Kenya, the mood was mixed. John Hoga, an engineer, said it was an outrage that Kim was picked over Okonjo-Iweala, who was a much stronger candidate in his eyes for an economic role. The United States has held the presidency since the World Bank founding after World War II, while European has always held its sister institution, the International Monetary Fund. As part of their effort to gain greater say in the global financial institutions, emerging economies are also pushing for greater voting power at the International Monetary Fund. Philip Keitan, KTN Business Today.
With data fast becoming the mainstay for mobile operators in Kenya, Telecom Kenya now wants the industry regulator, the Communications Commission of Kenya, to develop a master plan governing its growth in the market. As part of its proposal, Telecom Kenya wants the CCK to review spectrum fees that are currently impacting on its operational costs.
The network operator argues that a well-spelled-out regulatory environment will boost service provision for all telecoms. According to the firm, the industry should adopt a pay-and-use system to bridge the cost between frequency fees the operators pay and the mobile and internet penetration rate in the country.
We should take the best of methodology to make frequency fees the best one. Today, frequency fees is around 10 to 30% in our revenues.
Spectrum fees have been a challenge for telecoms as high charges have added to the operational costs, limiting their profitability. He was speaking on the sidelines of the East Africa COM conference, where Highway Africa, on the other hand, called for the use of infrastructure sharing with operators by giving satellite redundancy when downtime is realized on fiber optic infrastructure.
A lot of integration of technologies to create solutions. And moving away from the silo approach, that is exactly what I mean, that we need to move towards selling of pipes, selling of technology, a technology-centric approach.
A pay-as-you-earn system is supported by most mobile operators as it offers a refined calculation method that also lowers fixed costs for operators. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
Well, indeed, that's it for KTN Business Today. Our apologies, we couldn't have the financial markets review today.
KTN Business Today, in association with CBA.
We can make the most of what we have.